In this episode of the PodCAP series, I sit down with the captain of the noble Naviathans, Frostbiyt. We discuss topics such as Mollux and Rain, as well as his matchup against Snake Rattler in Week 1. We also discuss his opinion on different topics that could happen as a result of the vote to delay Cap 27 to Gen 8. But not before we discuss the second week of the 5th Cap Team Tournament and continue our tournament coverage. But before we begin, PodCAP is brought to you by Smogon.com, where you no longer have to excuse their look during the redesign. And the CAP Discord server, reminding you to use bulletproof Equilibra and not levitate. And the Choice Band Revenanhks, but also the Noble Naviathans. The Noble Naviathans, specifically Frostbiyt, are looking for new employees for Frost's new marketing business. Sign up today to get a 20% off your first initial purchase of the materials that you'll be selling when you use the promo code Frostbiyt at checkout. For further inquiries, just PM Frostbiyt at smogon.com. And lastly, a serious announcement. If you're at all interested in leadership positions in the Create a Pokemon subforum, PRC applications are now open to discuss new and exciting details for the future of the Create a Pokemon project. Signups can be found on the Create a Pokemon project subforum on smogon.com. Thank you, and enjoy. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of PodCAP. Tonight I'm joined by the manager of the Noble Naviathans. You might know him as the Snake Killer, or something along those lines. He told me to say that, but it's kind of a silly intro, not gonna lie. Everyone, Frostbiyt.
Hello. And I said Slayer of Snakes, but whatever.
Slayer of Snakes. Yeah. You know, no one's perfect, what can I say? We could always redo the intro if you'd like.
No, that's fine.
Alright. Well, welcome to PodCAP. Tell us a bit about yourself, activities in Smogon, outside of Smogon. What are you like?
Oh, well, inside of Smogon, I mostly just do Cap. I used to play Pokemon Showdown, like, Gen 5, but aside from that, it's mostly just been Cap in, like, the last year or so, I guess. Yeah.
And outside of Smogon and competitive Pokemon, do you have any other hobbies or interests?
No. No, I'm just kidding.
No?
I play board games. Been doing a lot of Magic recently.
Oh, yeah. Nice. What's your favorite playstyle in Magic?
I don't know, I kind of like green, just play big creatures, ramp to big creatures, stuff like that. Smash faces.
Sure, yeah. I had a friend who tried to get me into it, and he kept trying to get me to, like, use a Planeswalkers deck and, like, a blue mainly, but I just couldn't get into it myself. And lastly, tell us a bit about your favorite cap, because I think there's one in particular you kind of like.
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
What? No.
Let me see if I can figure this out. Melmetal. Very excited about that.
Oh yeah, that's mine too, actually.
Yeah.
The process for that one was kind of tricky. I wasn't a huge fan that we didn't give it more like steel stab moves, but hey, I can't complain.
I mean, its signature move is decent, I guess.
Yeah. It's great to break sub. Yeah, definitely a good answer for Magirna and everything. Well, yeah. Well, anyway, so basically, in the past few episodes of PodCAP, I've sort of talked about the draft and everything, but now that we've sort of moved on to Week 2, I'm going to ask you a little bit about the end of Week 1 and sort of the reflections coming out of the matchup against the Choice Band Revenanhks and going into Week 2 against your Jumbao's matchup. So why don't we start off sort of, what were your sort of general feelings and reflections coming out of that first week?
Well, I don't want to go into too much specifics about, like, you know, what we're doing behind the scenes or anything, but
of course.
Yeah, so that first week, you know, we had, you know, two wins, 4 losses. So you know, MX and I were talking, and we've kind of decided that going forward, we're gonna double down on stuff that worked, and see if we can see if that'll help us do better this week and future weeks.
For sure. Yeah, because, you don't want to shake up things too much, but, it is the first week, and coming away with, it was closer than it seemed, I feel like, as someone who was on the opposite team. Speaking, at least for me, after that LC, when, who was it, beat Yami, I felt like there was maybe some momentum there, too. Yeah, I felt that there was some momentum, so obviously you want to try to capture as much of that as possible, too. So your 2 wins, they were in LC, and then there was your win against Snake. So tell me a bit about that. So when you were building, in particular, what were you sort of preparing for in that case?
Well, I wasn't the one that built the team. Shout out to
Really?
Frat Dude, who did all the work on that.
Interesting.
Yeah. I discussed it a little bit with because we knew that our matchup with Snake was going to be a difficult one, so we put in a bit of extra effort into that one. Obviously we were prepped for Trick Room.
Yeah, so, and I take it because Fratty was the one building, you actually didn't use Rain? Is that what I'm led to believe?
Yeah. I don't think MX would have been happy if I brought Rain to a possible Trick Room matchup.
Yeah, probably not. And so, based on that, sort of that mindset going in, were you expecting him then to bring Trick Room?
I knew it wasn't certain, because obviously he's got that reputation, and so if he wants to avoid being just completely counter-teamed, you can't just do exactly what everybody expects. Then you're just asking for it.
Yeah, exactly. So you bring a couple things that are pretty good against Trick Room and Trick Room setters and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we kind of made sure that it was, good against, like, sand, since Snake's been playing a lot of sand recently, aside from just Trick Room.
Yeah.
So we
kind of build around an archetype.
Yeah. So we just tried to kind of build it against kind of how Snake played in particular. But Trick Room specifically, of course.
Of course. And so there was one Mon in particular that really stood out to a lot of people watching, and I think you'll know what I'm referring to when I say it. Flame Oil or Colossoil.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was so I know since Fratty was the one building, sort of, did he sort of explain to you why he went with Colossoil there in that choice on that team?
Well, Colossoil's a pretty known thing, counter sort of to Trick Room, just because it deals with the Trick Room setters pretty effectively. Guts boosted, Earthquake just wrecks Fidget, and then Knockoff just gets rid of Slow King. So it's it's a decent Mon, but against Trick Room in particular, it's really effective.
Yeah, so everyone in the Revs chat was kind of laughing about that a little bit, but it worked, so can you really complain about that?
Yeah, definitely put in work in that match.
Oh, totally did. I was watching it, and I just remember thinking, like, oh god, this Colossoil. And I remember, too, I sort of talked about it in the last episode as well, but that turn where you just, where he opted to Moonblast or Shore Up or one of those options, and he made the wrong 50-50 play, Colossoil just showed that it really put in a lot of work in that fight.
Yeah, I think you guys mentioned it last week. I think that was the turn that lost him that match.
So what were some of the standout fights from your matchup against the Revenanhks? Were there any that you found particularly exciting or fun to watch?
well, aside from mine, of course, being the standout fight.
Of course.
And Leo's, because, we won those, so those are
Let the dub.
so those are clearly the standout fights in my opinion. I was impressed by let's see if I don't know exactly how to pronounce this, but I was impressed by Qzul's
Oh, yeah.
match. He's pretty new to Cap, just joining in the process.
Right.
Just in this most recent process, and I was even though he beat our team, I was pretty impressed that he managed to take down MX in what I believe his first Cap tournament match.
Yeah, I think so too. I haven't asked. I can ask him for you if you'd like.
We'll just assume that's the case.
Yeah, we'll go with that for now. I know he plays a lot of NU, so I'm sure that helped a little bit there too.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. And then I know.
And your matchup, of course.
Well, you didn't have to, but because you did, thank you. No. No, don't ever. If I promise I'm not fishing for any compliments or anything. So then there were the other matchups, and you've mentioned that you watched maybe a few, but you didn't really get around to watching replays of any of them, so that's fine. I mean, why would you, right?
Yeah, I'm not the mastermind behind the team, so
fair enough. And then who would you consider on your team to be the MVP this week, I guess? I know it's a little narrow if you consider it's just winners, but are there any players in particular that really stood out this week, win or loss?
I mean, obviously King Leo being the other person who won. That was definitely he was definitely a valuable player to have this week.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of behind the scenes, we had a couple people who were particularly valuable to have with testing and stuff like that. But as for just like one person, I don't think there's like one most valuable player.
Good answer. Yeah, no, I'd say that's fair. And obviously you probably don't want to give away like who are your helpers and testers and everything, so I get that. So it seems pretty straightforward from the end of week 1. Naturally there's things to sort of think about, but now we're in the shift from week 1 to week 2, and there's a lot of different things about the Cap metagame, and I was just wondering how is your team sort of adapting to these changes, with again the Orommoth nerf now officially being in effect and Equilibra being legal and people are at it now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, we're going to be, obviously we're going to be bringing Mold Breaker Excadrill and Fighting Z Lele to every match in for Gen 7 Cap. But as for changes and stuff like that, other than like, deleting most of our Orommoths off our teams,
just replace them with Volcarona.
Yeah, well, if I go into my team builder here, literally the name of my Volcarona teams are Best Moth 1, Best Moth 2, as I've iterated on that.
I really feel that. It's so bizarre too how, you look at some of these nerfs with Mega Crucible and Nocturna, and Mega Crucible just sort of fell off, and Nocturna's still kind of around. How do you think Orommoth's viability is going to fare?
Well, it's, obviously it's going to go down, as it's anything that's broken then goes to non-broken is going to do. But I think there's still some, it'll still have some decent sets. I don't know if it's going to be somewhere in the A range, or if it'll be lower than that, but I think it's still going to have tons of sets. I mean, it still has, all the coverage, so I imagine there'll be quite a bit of variation there. And then Dragon Dance versus Tail Glow, or Dragon Dance and Tail Glow if you're G Luke.
I think it's so funny that, people think that's a pretty good set, and it's not a bad set, but I personally, I don't know if you've used this mon with, but it's weak armor plus weakness policy.
Yeah, I don't think I've used it, but I've definitely seen some of that. I know, I think Pip was building with that.
Yeah, Pip's been a very vocal supporter of that set, if I'm remembering right. Because, you just come in on a U-turn and basically just then proceed to, click buttons.
Yeah, it seems like it could be good.
Yeah, I'd say so. So coming into week 2 now with a changed metagame, are you going to then use this newfound metagame to try to shift that losing momentum and that morale into something newer and perhaps, more hopeful for your guys' team for this week?
I mean, I think we don't really need the changes to, kind of rebound or whatever, but we'll try to take advantage of anything we can. If we can, like if we come up with interesting sets or whatever to take advantage of the new meta, that'll obviously we're gonna try to do that.
Of course, see, if you're trying to rebound, you can't be using flame oil. God damn it! I really said. Oh my god, dude. That's how you know. For those listening, it's fucking hot as hell here in the Midwest, so I'm a little delirious right now.
Yes, the voltage is currently sitting in flame oil.
You could say that. I mean, you really could. I mean, I don't need to describe how I'm feeling right now, but oh my god, I'm going to need to take a long cold shower after this. You have no idea. Anyway, back to the sort of questions. And you guys are facing the Jimbaos this week. Finch's team and all that stuff. How did you plan out your lineup for this week? Looking at it now, there's been a match that's happened already for your team.
Yes, there's been one match so far.
Yeah. So let's quick talk about your lineup here. So your lineup now is Jay at first. Nope, sorry, that's the Jumbows. You have Sun Miser, and then Spitfire, Trace at third, Raj Shoot at fourth, with Leo playing LC and Quairo playing Finch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course that last match has already happened.
This lineup. And the Quairo versus Finch has already happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think Leo is our kind of our main Little Cup player. So that one was fairly easy. And then we just kind of wanted to, for the rest of you might notice that I believe none of our Sun and Moon players played last week, so we kind of wanted to see how all of our players.
Sure. Though to counter that, I did play DJ Berluminati last week, and he's versus Maroon this week.
Yeah, you're right.
And I think Trace played last week too, didn't he?
I don't know, maybe. Let me see.
I'll have a little look. But regardless,
oh yeah,
so
he did.
You're sort
he
of.
Did. I think other than like Tarantino and Airwind, I believe we've played everybody now.
Sure.
Could be wrong. And yeah, the whole Spitfire Arcanine DJ Berluminati thing still throwing me off.
It did for me too, especially when cbrevan last week told me Spitfire, and I was like, hold on, who is that again? Oh wait, I'm playing him.
Yeah, because he's Spitfire on Discord, but which is where I talk to him the most.
Right.
So that kind of threw me off for a second.
Yeah, it happens. It's like calling Offler Joe, or however you pronounce his name.
Oh, I just call him Offler.
Yeah, I do too. Anyway, You got King Leo at LC. You're sort of playing the other players that you haven't really played aside from Airwind and Tarantino. What was sort of the mindset putting Spitfire at second and Trace at third compared to last week when Spitfire was in fact in fourth and Trace was at first? Is there any change because of that, or just shaking it up?
Yeah, the change was that MX listened to your first podcast with and I promised him that I'd call him Shispy if I referred to him. Your first podcast where he said that
it's SHSP for those listening in. Yeah. But yeah, Shispy.
Where he said that he used random.org or whatever. And so that's what we did this week.
Oh, really?
Yep.
See, now that's funny. I think that's clever and amusing to sort of hear. It's different. Every team I've noticed, too, is that, we're playing the Revs, if I may make this about myself for a little bit. The Revs are playing the exact same lineup as last week, and that was sort of just an interesting thing that I wonder what people will think about that, but I'm not going to get into that too much. This one's about you.
It is your podcast.
Yeah, you did listen to that too. So there's that. Not about me. It's about you. So you did the random org. So that's pretty cool. And then the Quairo versus Finch fight that happened earlier today, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a decent fight. Kind of long. Have you been able to watch it yet?
Yeah, I was there for it. So I was watching that.
And what did you think of it as it was going on?
I too thought it was kind of a long match. I don't watch, or I haven't seen a lot of Oras replays. Just kind of in general, I was pretty absent from Pokemon during most of that period of time. But is that normal? Like, are they normally kind of slow paced like that?
Yeah, I didn't play Cap in Oras as much, but I played a lot of OU and some UU in Cap, or not Cap, in Oras. And Oras is very much like bulky offense, the metagame, because basically every team has to have like some sort of mega, and then every team has to have like certain checks. And I know in Cap you have to have like a Colossoil check and a Mega Crucible check, and then you also have to like have a ground immunity and a Mega Metagross check. So it sort of leads to a lot of bulky offense style, or even like just like generally pretty long matches, from what I know at least.
Yeah, because it wasn't until like 20 something that they had even one kill.
Yeah, it's like turn 29, I want to say. No, I'm scrolling through it right now. It's not until 30-something. It's not till turn 37, I think. 37 when when Latias actually healing wishes. That's the first thing that happens.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the healing wish. Wow.
Yeah. So, and one of the things that really stood out to me is, about halfway through the match, Finch sort of comments like he doesn't realize that Mega Crucible got low kick.
Yeah,
like
Finch is not a Cap player.
I mean, to be fair, I don't think I would expect Crucible to get low kick either.
Yeah, if you didn't know it already.
Yeah, and earlier around turn 51, he commented that his team actually doesn't have rocks. So Finch had his team around turn 51, and he's commenting that his team doesn't have stealth rocks. So that's kind of a little almost cocky of him sometimes, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to know what you thought of like the end of this fight, like this loss that Quairo had.
Well, no offense or anything to Quairo, but Oras is kind of our weakest format, because I don't think he's really that he's played a ton of Cap, and we don't have a lot of people on our team that have played a lot of Oras in particular. So it wasn't entirely unexpected or anything, and what is it, Fink,
Yeah.
whatever.
Finch, yeah. Whoever he is.
Yeah. Who's this guy?
Some no-name.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's obviously a pretty good player. I was actually on his team last year for team
Really?
tournament. Yeah, I was on Burkle's team.
Yeah.
And this is
Fair enough.
basically the same thing that he was saying last year too.
Where he like doesn't play cap, but he signed up for team tour anyway, just because it's another team tour.
I guess I think him and Burkle are friends or something like that.
Wouldn't shock me. Finch gets around. No, I'm just kidding, Finch. Meat. All right. So it's not how you want to start off a week.
Yeah.
But are there any matches in your matchup this week that you feel you're very confident about or you're excited to see?
All of them. All of them very confident. We're gonna win every single one. Yeah, let me just scroll up to Snorlax's predictions real quick.
Good answer, by the way. Yeah. Oh boy. I got a question about that.
Yeah, let's see. So, yeah, I mean, for the most part, they seem like pretty. I mean, I don't follow a lot, especially outside of Cap. I don't follow tournaments and stuff like that. But from what I know, most of these matchups seem pretty good. Not too lopsided. I mean, obviously, Heaven J is really good.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that matchup turns out.
Yeah, for sure. And then, the one thing I will say, though, is you say that these are, like, decent predictions, yet you're losing 2-4 this week as well. So do you think that's, it'll just sort of be reversed, like another Curse of Snore kind of thing going on, or?
Well, unfortunately, he did get the first prediction right.
Yeah. Though he did get the Oras Offler versus JRDN wrong, so who knows?
Yeah, maybe the curse is still in play.
I mean, he did only get one right last week.
Yeah, out of what, 12?
Out of 11, I think. Because one of them just went to a coin flip.
Oh, was it coin flipped? I thought it was because of like a sub or something like that.
Well, see, he predicted Scarf Wynaut would win, but then Wynaut missed their time to play, so he got that one wrong too.
Oh yeah, I remember that discussion in the Discord.
Yeah, that was pretty controversial. Do you want to sort of talk about that a little bit? What sort of went down?
Yeah. So let's see. I think there's a big long post about it in the first week thread.
Yeah. And while you're finding that, let me sort of catch people up on the whole thing. Basically, what happened was that Scarf Wynaut was supposed to play against who was it? They were supposed to play up against Epic Umbreon, and what happened was that Scarf Wynaut initially posted activity because it was the end of the week and Epic Umbreon hadn't been on since Friday, but then Epic Umbreon responded that Scarf Wynaut had missed their preset time and that they were out of town.
Yeah, I think.
In any case,
I think they were like on vacation or something like that.
Yeah, with their family or something.
I think Offler he's on Offler's team, right? I think.
Scarf Wynaut's on Offler's team.
Oh, I don't know that. Yeah, Epic was on Burkle's team. I think he was saying that Epic was on vacation and so couldn't play.
So then, how do you feel about the decision that Drap ultimately came to about who got the win in that case?
I think I agree with it. I mean, Scarf Wynaut, he missed the scheduled time, so there wasn't really anything, and Epic couldn't play, so afterwards, anyways. So if Epic was able to play later and did so, that would kind of be a courtesy, in my opinion, because it's probably better overall for the tournament if matches are being played. But yeah, I think he made the right decision.
Yeah. And then the other matchup that didn't actually happen last week, if we're going back to week 1 a bit, Funbot versus Ming. I know that wasn't really relevant to your team last week, but the decision to have it be a coin flip is something that I know was discussed as well, and I want to get your opinion on that as well. Team tournaments being decided by a coin flip here. What you thought of that?
I'm not a real big fan of the coin flips, just kind of in general. I mean, why not just it? Well, I don't know the exact situation here where did they just fail to schedule or just failed to schedule.
Or I think they both missed times. I don't know the exact context, so I don't want to misrepresent them. So I don't know either. I did not do my research apparently.
I don't really know the full context, but if two players aren't showing activity, why not just give them both the loss?
Yeah. And the other thing too is that the Smokemotos had already sort of won the week at that point since they had gotten their 4 wins. So I feel as though the coin flip ultimately was just for differential, it seemed almost. In any case, we're going to go sort of back to week 2. You had mentioned that the matchups that you're expecting this week, are going to be pretty good and exciting matchups and everything, and that you're confident in everything. If you had to pick one fight that you think is sort of the big ticket fight of the week, what do you think it would be?
Let's see. That's a good question. I don't know. I think I'm probably looking forward to that Trace versus Epic Umbreon fight. Epic. He hasn't been super active lately, but he used to be pretty active in both, in the cap metagame at least, pretty good.
Yeah. And do you know when they would play this week? Depending on how quickly I can get this one out.
Yeah, let me see. I think that one's been scheduled. Oh, maybe it hasn't. Never mind. You can cut that part out. So, maybe soon, maybe not so soon.
Hard to know for sure. Hopefully this one will actually happen, though.
Yeah.
And then, are there any other big ticket matchups from the other two, or big ticket fights from the other two matchups, whether it's the Revs versus the Kerfluffles or the Smokos versus the Snailstorms, that you are interested in or excited to maybe see what'll happen?
I think the one that I noted as looking pretty interesting was Jordy versus DLC at Detroit Lolcat.
That was actually the same one I was gonna say too.
Yeah. DLC is another person who hasn't been all that active recently. As far as I've noticed, at least, he'll drop in from time to time on the forums, but and then obviously Jordy is very active in the both the process and the metagame now.
The captain too.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. He's actually, I think, next in line for PodCAP too. So very exciting about that. I'll be sure to ask him about that as well.
Yeah.
And then any from, or sorry, I cut you off. You were saying?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, we were also on the same team last year, Jordy and I. So it's cool to see him at the head of one of the teams this year when he was new to Cap, at least this time last year.
Yeah, interesting. So I'm gonna quick improvise a question about that then. So then, looking at Jordy sort of develop from last year to this year, are there any major improvements that you've seen so far from his fighting at all? And If so, what would they be? And if not, I'll just cut the question out.
I mean, he was pretty good then, and still pretty good now. Let's see, it took him a while, but he finally managed to kill off Tomahawk.
Oh man, Tomahawk.
Yeah, I used to run that on my old Rain team. That one that I ran this one team for, I don't know, months as like my main team, and it had a defensive Tomahawk, and it's like Jordy comes into the meta, and he's like, yeah, Tomahawk, that thing's bad, and then all of a sudden my team starts losing. Tomahawk starts to suck.
See, when I hear defensive Tomahawk on the Rain, I immediately think, wait a sec, what?
Yeah, What was its? I don't even know anymore what like its main role was or anything. Just kind of a blanket defensive check to stuff. It was that team's not good. Fun, but not good.
Send me a pokey paste of it, and I'll put it in the description of this podcast if you want me to.
Yeah, I'll have to hunt that down. It had Mollux, of course.
Of course.
Rebound.
And I was actually
Colossoil. Rebound Colossoil as well.
Yeah. Speaking of Mollux.
Yeah.
How do you think it's gonna fare in this new Equilibra meta?
S rank for sure. It's about time.
Hell yeah, bro. Wait, we're talking about Cap UU, right?
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it'll take a pretty huge meta shift. I think if it's even possible for Mollux to become, all that relevant again. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I can relate. I tried making a Rain team with Mollux, and it had Rain Dance on it, and it's hardwalled by Heatran.
Yeah. Hey, that's because you're not running Thunder.
Shit, you're right.
Didn't you read the analysis? The amazing analysis. I only went for
3,000.
What?
There's a reason I only went for 3,000. Anyway, so sort of moving away from Cap Team Tour now, I have just a few more questions about sort of the Cap general scene. And the first thing that I want to sort of ask you about is, now that we've sort of decided that Cap 27 is not going to take place until Gen 8, what are some other things that you feel that the Cap PRC can sort of do to keep people still invested in the Cap metagame while we wait for Gen 8?
Well, I posted my thoughts in the PRC thread, I think earlier this week, about moving for the time being at least, moving the pre-evolutions. I was going to say Little Cup, but the pre-evolutions into the main forum, so that they can get more of the spotlight. Because I can say that I personally, when I'm checking, to see if there's any new posts, I skip over the prevos stuff.
Yeah.
Just look at the main forum. But it'll be nice I think it'd be nice if that got a little bit more attention, and it'll be something that's there consistently, since we seem to always be working on those.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that, you see the Cap pre-evolution process still going even after we finish the main process.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a lot of Gen 4 prevos for Caps that exist that just haven't been brought over. And how much do you think that those prevos are then going to be made with Cap LC in mind?
Well, I mean, the people submitting, movesets and stuff like that will definitely be thinking about Little Cup, but I know DHR in particular makes sure to stress that this is not a competitive project whenever that's brought up.
Yeah. I know, and I've seen DHR post it too, is that the prevos are made strictly for flavor, and then they just happen to work pretty well in LC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But even so, how much do you think that the development of these these LC mons, these prevos, will actually help the Cap LC scene develop,
Well, hopefully the hopefully increased attention will on the pre-evolution process. Hopefully that'll urge more people to get into the into that metagame that may not have really paid it much attention before. Just kind of Stockholm syndrome. The people who come into Cap like, oh, all you get is prevos for a while. You better start liking it.
Yeah, you built this. Now go play with it.
Yeah.
And I feel like too, there's definitely mons that you can develop to be pretty good. Again, it's obviously a flavor thing, but thinking about No Face, for example, and how it could be a very good answer to Scratch It somehow, is not necessarily a bad thing to have, given how good Scratch It is in Cap LC.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could be interesting.
Yeah.
And then there's the other metagame that I think is coming into fruition a little bit too, Cap UU, because I know we had a tournament for that a while back, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, that's kind of, well, I really like Cap UU. I've definitely been one of the people kind of pushing for it. It's definitely a very different metagame from standard Cap.
Well, for sure.
I mean, obviously with Mollux at the near the top of the heap there, it's going to be pretty different.
Yeah, really. I mean, when Mollux is at the top, that's how you know it's a good metagame.
Yeah. I agree.
Mollux and Malaconda are probably the two most interesting caps in Cap UU, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
And with these recent meta shifts, who knows, Snailstrom might actually move out of Cap UU.
Yeah, maybe. If Pip gets his way.
It's hard to... Yeah, I know Pip is very, very big on his creation with...
Yeah, what's next, Pip? Jump out to S? We're on to you, Pip.
It's really hard to know for sure, but one way or another, I feel like Cap UU, if I had to make a prediction, and I want to know what you think too, but I think Cap UU would honestly be a near lock for next year's Cap Team tournament.
Yeah, I think it's pretty likely. Well, we've gotta see how the whole Gen 8 thing shakes out, but because that could throw a big wrench in that. But I don't really want to talk about that.
Neither do I. Not gonna lie, neither do I.
Especially at this point where we just know so little about it.
Yeah.
It's a month ago I would have said like, yeah, Cap UU. I'm pretty sure that'll probably make it to the next Cap Teen tournament, but who knows? Who knows at this point?
Yeah, at this point, Cap UU is literally going to be like nothing. The only mon that'll be in Cap UU is No, wait, what? What is that? I was gonna say Plasmanta. I'm not sure what that is.
Oh, that's just that's some random fake-amon that from the internet.
Yeah, everyone keeps talking about it, and I really don't understand what the joke is. It's not funny.
Ask Legend Slayer to explain it to you.
Yeah, I think I will, because frankly, it's almost getting kind of annoying. Because I see people talking about this thing called, and they're like, oh, it was like a Zapdos thing. It's like, what? Stop, Zapdos? No, I don't.
Yeah, Zapdos doesn't exist in Cap either.
Yeah, so What the hell is this thing? I've never heard of it in my life. Anyway, so I guess we're sort of coming to the end of these questions I've sort of prepared. Are there any other things that you'd like to sort of say or discuss, or shout-outs, trash talk, things you want to say, etc., etc.?
Well, in terms of trash talk, hopefully how our team does this week will speak for itself. I don't really have anything to shout out. I mean, I'm sure most of the people listening here will, are following the tournament and create a Pokemon as a whole. So,
definitely. Are there any things that you want to advertise, share? Any things? Any other interests?
Well, yeah. So I started I started this business recently. It's totally not a pyramid scheme. If people are interested, just send me $500. No. I'll send.
No, see, you have to pay for your materials. But
Yeah,
I promise you, the investments will triple because then you just find the people you want to sell to.
Would you like to work from home?
I would love to work from home. I mean, it's what I do with this podcast. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, as a special to your listeners, only $450 if you use the promo code.
You'll get It'll only be $45 if you use the promo code Frostbite at the next checkout.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll have to remind myself to put that in the. Or is there a name of this company? Because I'll do it in the sponsor.
Oh man, I just came up with that. No, I don't have a name. I'll come up with one if you want to throw that if you want to throw something about that at the beginning.
Yes, please, definitely. Well, thank you, Frostbite, for your time. And thank you, listeners, for joining me here. If you liked this episode of PodCAP, please leave a like, comment, don't forget to subscribe, and feel free to throw in any other comments or questions you would like me to ask any future guests I might have on this episode, or on the show, rather. If I can talk. That's.
Oh, are we having somebody else on this episode?
No, we're not, but that's in theory I could just get a voice clip of G-Luke's dogs and just sort of throw that in here and call it good, but maybe not. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you around for the next episode. Until then.